What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Back to 12 podcast live right before the number 21 Baylor Bears take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders at the USA. Apologies for the Christmas decorations we have not put away yet in the closet because, well, I'll be honest, I've been lazy, but hey, that's just how the story goes sometimes. But hey, on today's video and on this live, we're going to be talking about Texas Tech men's basketball in their game against Baylor, which is a must-win game in my opinion. If you agree, let me know down in the comments. Let's get the chat going in terms of what are y'all thinking about this game? Where do you think Texas Tech needs to improve to get that first Big 12 win of the season? Also, I'll be giving you updates around the Big 12 right now. Kansas State leading the number 2 team in the country in Manhattan are the Wildcats, 14-6 with 14:31 remaining in the first half. But that's a good game, and there's a lot of other good games going on in the Big 12 tonight, including Texas, Iowa State, and obviously the game out in the 806. So let's start previewing this game a little bit because I think this is where it's do or die time, right, for Texas Tech. Let's just be real about it. And if you're watching, be sure to like the video. Comment something down there that you guys want to talk about when it comes to Texas Tech men's basketball. I think there's a lot to talk about right now. But we're going to jump into this Baylor game because I think, again, must-win game for Texas Tech, no doubt. But this is a game, and I mentioned this on Twitter earlier, that this just feels like a get-right game for Kevin Obanor. Kevin Obanor has been a stud in the 2 games that he's faced off against the Baylor Bears in his career. It's one of those deals where, again, I don't want to put these kind of expectations on him, but this is his averages, right, against the Baylor Bears and kind of, I think, what Red Raider Nation expects to a degree. But KO has averaged 18 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, and shot 50% from deep. Okay, so I think when you look at this, I'm expecting a game where he gets around 18 points. He's got to have a get-right game because when you look at what Kevin Obanor has done the past 2 games, he's just been bad. And that's not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but up to his expectations, I think he'd say the same thing. Now, obviously, there's some adjustments involved with that in terms of Fardaws coming back, but I think tonight is a big test for Texas Tech and basically one of those moments where, you're flat out with your back up against the wall and your season is damn near on the line in terms of if you want to get to the NCAA tournament because you're about to be, after tonight, think about this, you're about to be 18 games deep. This is the 18th game of the season. And if you lose this game, you have 0 quad 1 wins so far on the year. 18 games in and you have 0 quad 1 wins. That's a problem if you want to get into the NCAA tournament. Texas Tech knows that. You know that if you're a Texas Tech fan. It's just the simple truth. So I think Texas Tech is going to come out and play with a lot of veracity on both sides of the floor. I truly expect to see that Amik, Bacho, and Obanor lineup tonight a couple of times. I think it's great for Texas Tech because it allows Kevin Obanor to mostly go back to his normal position where he's better. At least he has been at the Big 12 level, which is on the perimeter, and he shoots at a high clip. It allows him to find spacing and really just do that catch and shoot, which he is really good at. And I think 2 of your better passers on this team, in my opinion, are actually Fardaws and Bacho. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to make mistakes. Everybody on this team has made them. But I think Texas Tech has got more conscious these past few games, especially the Texas game with spacing. And I don't think you can undersell the impact that AMAC had in that. I think Fardaws did a great job with that. That's from Alex. I think having Fardaws helps Kevin since it spreads him around the 3-point line. But we need to have the same intensity we did against Texas and play all 40 minutes. 100% agree. And that's kind of to my point. I don't think people realize Kevin Obanor has been playing out of position this year, right? Like, I think people think of Kevin Obanor as that Oral Roberts guy. And yeah, he was a great guy in the post at Oral Roberts, but he's not a post player in the Big 12. Can he do it? Yes, sometimes. But Kevin Obanor really, when it comes down to it, is kind of a hybrid 4. Right? He's a guy that really excels on the perimeter. He can help you defensively down low, but his offensive skill set really isn't down low except for rebounding, right? He's much better as a perimeter guy that spaces the floor, makes it much easier for drivers such as Devion Harmon, Pop Isaacs, Jalen Tyson, guys to get to the rim and have to worry about one less big man, right? Like that's what he does. And so I think that this is really going to help Kevin O'Banner get to that level. And remember, it was about this time last year where everybody was saying the same thing about Kevin O'Banner, right? Kevin O'Banner hasn't been living up to this expectations, this, that, and the other. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, February 1st, a certain individual came back to the 806, and Kevin O'Banner had a stud game against the Longhorns and helped Texas Tech beat the Longhorns last year. So really good stuff right there in terms of Kevin O'Banner and potentially getting him back into a position where he can excel. And I'm looking forward to it not only for him, but guys like Devion Harmon, guys like Pop Isaacs, because I think when you get a guy in a more natural fit, like Kevin O'Banner, for example, it allows guys like Pop Isaacs to know where he's at more often and put them in a position to where they can find him more often, right into that shooting pocket. And again, people have been talking trash a little bit about Kevin O'Banner and his shooting this year. He's shooting around 30%, low 30s from three. I expect that to be a lot better in the second half of the season. I truly do, especially if Amax stays healthy and Bacho as well. And Bacho, I think people forget he had a really bad game against UT. Personally, I'm just kind of kicking that to the side. And really, these past few games, he hasn't looked like that guy early on in the season. Obviously, higher competition. But people need to remember this man lost 15 pounds due to illness. And he's also playing with a dislocated finger, right? So, like, Bacho's fighting through it right now, trying to get back into that game shape, get back into cardio, just add a little bit more weight to where he was. And once you get back to that, if you're Bacho, I think you're going to see closer to the guy that we saw, at the Maui Invitational early on in Big 12 play. But right now, I'm kind of giving Bacho a pass just because, again, the dude lost 15 to 20 pounds due to illness. Like, give him a break on that aspect of it. But hey, let me know in the comments what you're looking for tonight from Texas Tech. Again, trying to get this comment section going. I appreciate Alex doing that. Texas Tech right now is 2.5-point favorites. It went back at one point. It was at 2 points for Texas Tech, but it went up half a point again. They're 2.5-point favorites over the Baylor Bears, which I don't know the last time that you had a ranked opponent going into another conference, arena, right? That was winless, and the winless team is favored. Again, I've said this on my Twitter Spaces, post games, and everything like that. If you don't follow me on Twitter, do so at RCMB323. I'll be talking about Texas Tech post game here, hopefully after a Red Raider victory later tonight. But you could argue, and again, it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, it doesn't mean anything because you don't have these wins, but you could argue Texas Tech should have 2 wins in the Big 12, and they would be sitting in the same exact spot as Baylor. And you could argue those 2 wins, one of them should be against Kansas or Texas. Let's just split it and say one of those, right? You get a top 10 win, and then the other one should be against Oklahoma, right? So you get 2 quad 1 wins, right? You could be talking about Texas Tech in a very different light, but you're not, because let's face it, they didn't win the damn games. So it doesn't matter, right? Like, I think the if game only goes so far when it comes down to it. And I think Texas Tech right now, again, they know that. It doesn't matter about what could have happened or, hey, this call should have gone our way. Hey, they should have called that foul on Pop where he tried the wraparound pass and his arm got smacked the shit out of by a UT player, right? Like, it doesn't matter. It wasn't called. You lost the game. Like, you got to move on, right? And I think Mark Adams talked about that in his press conference ahead of this Baylor game where, yeah, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like, you should be upset that that wasn't called, but what are you going to do about it now? Nothing. And you can't. So you're 0-5 in the Big 12, but this is a much better team than 0-5 in the Big 12. Like, the talent is there. I know people have made fun of me over on my Twitter Spaces, but this is one of the most talented, strictly talented Texas Tech teams this program has ever had. Now, talent doesn't mean results, as we all know, but I do think that the talent is there to ride this ship a little bit and get it back on track. Or I guess that was just a terrible analogy. I just compared a ship to the tracks. You never want to get a ship on the tracks. It's a train on the tracks. That's the second grade reading level for me right there type stuff. But anyway, I think that Texas Tech is a much better team than 0-5 in the Big 12, right? Now, have they been frustrating? Everyone here watching that knows the answer is yes. But I do think that everyone watching this right now would also say they see the flashes. Now the flashes need to be more consistent. They need to turn the ball less over, and that's a tall task. Let's not be um, just trying to sugarcoat things. Like they need to turn it over less. Um, but the talent's there. I think they can do it. You saw it against Texas. The crazy part is it's almost like Texas Tech plays down to their competition. Like it's frustrating, but it almost feels like that because it feels like every game they played so far this year against a ranked opponent, they have played top tier. It's like, hey, Texas Tech, they look like a top 25 team, right? But then they play, well, except for Iowa State. That was just a holy crap. They got blown out of the water, right? But then against Oklahoma, they kind of played down to their competition, right? And I don't know, just looking at it for me, I think Texas Tech, again, you could argue should have 2 wins in conference play right now. But again, we're talking about what ifs, and no one gives a damn about what ifs um, when it comes down to it, right? Like no one really gives a damn about the what ifs. But hey, if y'all haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm sure a lot of y'all have. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, I'll leave my at here in the chat and then ask questions away. I'll be giving y'all updates around the Big 12. Hey, Kansas State is doubling up the number 2 team in the country right now. Kansas, the Sunflower State rivalry right there, 24-12 in Manhattan right now. How about Jeremy Tang and crew? How about that, man? I mean, Texas Tech plays them after Baylor up there in Manhattan. And I'll tell you what, National Coach of the Year right now, again, there's a lot of games to be played, but it has to be Jeremy Tang in year number 1 up at Kansas State. He's done a phenomenal job with that roster and the turnover and getting guys in there like Keontae Johnson. I'm sure a lot of y'all remember him at Florida, that scary situation where he passed out on the floor. He got medically cleared, so he's playing for the Wildcats. He's one of the best players, not only in the Big 12, but in the entire country. And they're giving the number 2 Jayhawks everything they can handle right now. So again, be sure to hit that subscribe button and then follow me on Twitter. I'm dropping it right now here in the chat. All right. This from Alex again. Bacho needs to not dribble too much in the paint. His 3 turnovers were walks. He needs to catch and shoot. Hoping I see that. Yeah, I think with Bacho, this is the thing that's going to be interesting with me. I want to see those rotations because really we didn't get to see much of Bacho with Fardaws because of foul trouble with Bacho. But I like Bacho as a guy at the top of the key where he kind of almost facilitates the offense, right? He's a good passer. Now, that's not to say he's not going to turn the ball over. He will. But I do think he's an underrated passer. I actually had a Texas Tech staffer about 2 weeks ago tell me that they think Bacho is one of their 3 best passers on the team. Now, that can either worry you, encourage you, I don't know, feel whatever type of way you want. But I do think you see Bacho in his talent to pass the basketball. It's not always going to work. It's just not. That's just college basketball in a nutshell. But I think the skill set is there. Now, I do agree with you, Alex. Hey, the less Bacho dribbles, I think I'm okay with, but I think I could say that also about Kevin O'Banner and Fardaws. I think really the bigs in general, I don't really like it when they dribble too much. The guy I feel most comfortable with in terms of size, and it's not going to shock anybody, is Jalen Tyson. And let's be real, he's kind of like a combo guard forward, I should say. Let me look around the Big 12 real quick. Want to give y'all some updates. Again, some really big matchups in the Big 12 tonight. Only game going on right now is Kansas State and Kansas. Again, Kansas State leads at 31-19 with about 9 minutes remaining in the first half. A big one up in Ames, a top 12 matchup between the Longhorns and the Cyclones, the 2 teams that Texas Tech played last week. And then, of course, the big one for Texas Tech out at the USA. It's a wide out for the Texas Tech men's basketball team. They'll be rocking those old school white jerseys, and they'll be welcoming in probably – I don't think it's probably. He's going to be the freshman of the year in the Big 12 in Keontae George, and he's an absolute problem. He's a lottery pick, and I'm very interested to see what Texas Tech does against him in terms of defense. If I had to guess, I think you're going to see a lot of Jalen Tyson on Keontae George just to present a link factor, and then you figure it out with Pop. You probably have him on Flagler, and then you figure out Devion in terms of everything else from there. So I think it's going to be interesting. A lot of interesting moving parts for Texas Tech. How does the size impact them? Because Baylor really only has one guy in Toma Joshua down there. They really only have one big. They really only run one big at a time. They got a kind of a hybrid like Jalen Tyson, a little bit bigger about Kevin O'Banner's side and Bridges. You might remember him from West Virginia. He transferred to Baylor. He kind of plays their 4 spot. They're kind of more of a 4 out, 1 in team. And I think Texas Tech wants to do that as well, but they want to do it with potentially 3 bigs on the floor. In AMAC, obviously Bacho, and then O'Banner. The most interesting aspect of that lineup is what Fardaws brings to the table in the screen game. Listen, O'Banner and Bacho have a ton of good skills in their repertoire, but setting a good screen just hasn't been one of them this year. Texas Tech has struggled with screens, and I think Fardaws, you could see it right away in that Texas game. He becomes your best screener, and as he should. I mean, did you see the guy? He's built like an upside down Doritos chip. Like, my God, he's a unit. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. One of those deals where you get to see him and you get to see guys more in their proper position, because I think AMAC allows you to create more space because he is a guy that teams have to respect on the outside. Bacho, yeah, to some degree, that's true. But really, Fardaws is a pretty good shooter. Shot 40% at Utah Valley, which, again, I don't think he's going to do that in the Big 12. But you have to respect him and his shooting capabilities if you're the opponent. Old Texas Tech man said, just remember we are young. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of at the point where that doesn't matter anymore. And again, this isn't trying to be harsh or anything. And it's kind of to the point, and Mark Adams basically said himself, it's a put up or shut up type situation for Texas Tech. Like, it is what it is. Who cares if you're young? Like, you think your opponent cares if you're young? No. Like, eventually you just have to say, be damned with it. I have to go out there and perform. Screw it if we're putting a freshman in at point guard. By the way, he hadn't played like a freshman, right? Jalen Tyson hadn't played like a redshirt freshman, right? Lamar Washington hasn't played like a true freshman, right? I think the young excuse is kind of just falling on deaf ears right now, in my opinion, at least mine, because I think the only thing that matters at this point is execution, right? And you see young guys across the country performing well. They have mistakes, yes, and that's not saying that I don't think Texas Tech is going to have mistakes or make mistakes. The thing is this. The only reason youth matters is because some of these guys haven't been in front of, 16,000 people. That's the only thing that matters. And that's a human element to it, right? Like, yeah, I'd probably, poop a little too if I was in front of 16,000 people, try not to anyway. But that's the thing, right? Like, I think this youth thing goes out the window because the guys that are young on this team that are playing, they've played so many minutes right now that they're listed as freshmen, but when experience-wise, are you no longer a freshman because of the minutes you've played, because of the situations you've been in, right? Like, is Pop Isaacs a freshman mentally anymore? No. Like, he's well beyond his years, right? Like, you could argue right now today that Pop Isaacs is your best player. I don't know if that's a debate, to be honest with you. I think Pop Isaacs is that guy, right? So would you consider him a freshman mentally? Obviously, classification he is. You can't debate that because it's just a fact. But when do you say young and inexperienced goes out the window because of the situations you've been in already, right? Like, Pop Isaacs, he's been a starting point guard for every game of the Big 12 except for that Oklahoma game, and he's performed like an all Big 12 type player. He started every game out in Maui, right? Lamar Washington, one of the guys off the bench that's getting a ton of minutes. Believe he's 6th on the team in minutes right now. Is he still, freshman mentally? I don't think so, right? Jalen Tyson, he started every game for you, right? I think it comes down to this, like, yeah, you're young and you have eligibility left, but I think that's an excuse that's just fallen on deaf ears again for me at this point. It truly is. Um, let's see this from Judah. Age always matters. Pros still get starstruck. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but also at the same time, it's one of those deals where if we're saying age is the reason for that, I don't think that's right. I think it's the environment in the moment is why that happens, right? Like you're telling me a 38-year-old, NBA player could come into the USA right now, and he wouldn't be starstruck by that moment, right? Like that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know. I just think that the young thing is maybe a little too overblown right now for me anyway. That's just my opinion. I get it if people don't like it though. This from D Wayne. A U2 live preview. Yes, please. Shout out to you, Wayne. Appreciate you in here. From old Texas Tech man. I'm still not ready to talk about getting rid of Adams. Yeah, I mean I think that's going to be a conversation that a lot of people are going to want to have, like it or not. It is what it is. I don't know. Unfortunately, I feel like that's going to be a conversation that divides the fan base when I'm not sure it's really warranted or needed in a lot of regards. From Alex, do you think Fisher will transfer with little time he's been in? Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, anything is possible. Let's be real about this. Like, you have to recruit these guys, not just year by year, now that the portal is a thing. You have to recruit these guys day by day. Like, I don't think people truly understand that, right? Like, yeah, you have relationships with the staff members and everything like that, but these guys need to be recruited each and every day because, like it or not, there are schools out there that are, illegally tampering, right? Like, it's college sports. It's going on everywhere, right? In terms of, hey, you mind messaging this kid to see if there's interest there? It's happening. Like, it is what it is. It's college sports. It sucks to a degree, but that's the kind of the world we live in right now. And so, yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Fisher transferred. Wouldn't shock me if Walton transferred. Williams, like, wouldn't shock me if anybody transferred, to be honest. I think it really comes down to that. Fisher is not 18. No, he's 19. I think he actually might be 20. He is an old freshman. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's 19. Just turned 19 actually. So that's on me. This from Drew Wake. RC new studio background looks different. No, I just have it turned the other way. So gonna turn the camera around. Not trying to scare anybody if it gets close to my face. I apologize. There it is. It's just in front of me right now. Still got the Jarrett Culver stuff up. Still got the diploma. Got the Kansas State game on right there. Got the comments and everything. But yeah, just turned it around. Made it easier on the desktop today. So no new studio. No new studio. Just got lazy and didn't turn the camera around, if I'm being honest with you. Apologies. I know that stuff in the background. That Patrick Mahomes photo is arguably one of the treasures of my life right now. Done by David. Oh, my goodness. I forgot what his name is. David something. David C. Help me out. He's on Facebook everywhere and makes art for Texas Tech and Lubbock and all that stuff. If somebody knows what I'm talking about, please drop his name in the comments. This from Ryan. My thing is some of our fan base is so used to winning. We have to remember we are a young team and in the best basketball conference in America, in the nation. Yeah, like I think Texas Tech and some of the fan base has been spoiled, right? And that's fine. Like I get it to some degree. Like, hey, it is what it is. But again, like I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority here on this young stuff. But look at your starting rotation now. Like you could potentially have Fardaws in there now, senior. O'Banner, super senior. Devion Harmon, senior. Pop and Jalen, both freshmen, one true, one red shirt, right? You got Lamar Washington, who's a true freshman as well. But then guys that are in your rotation after that, Bacho, and other guys, like, hey, like they're older dudes, right? So like they played college basketball for at least 3 years. Like I get the young sentiment early on in the year because I'd actually agree with it. But right now, you're halfway through your season, just over it, right? Like I think the young aspect goes out the window, in my opinion. Like you can say they're young for the future, right, in terms of classification, but in terms of basketball experience this year, I don't think they're young anymore. Like you got to put up and shut up, and I think that those guys know that. Now, does that mean they're not going to make mistakes? Seniors make mistakes. Who gives a damn at that point? It's part of the game. But I think that the young guys that everybody's talking about, whether that's Pop, Lamar, Jalen, they ain't playing like young guys, right? Like you're expecting these young guys to do big things, and they are. They're playing like juniors and seniors. So I don't know. That just goes out the window for me. Jarrett Culver, yeah, Alex nailed it. He got waived by the Atlanta Hawks. Not sure exactly where he's going to end up, but another thing, real quick, on Jarrett Culver, since that name got mentioned. I don't know who needs to hear this, but Jarrett Culver did not make the wrong decision about leaving early. We can stop that. He made the right decision. He just went to a shitty situation in Minnesota to a team that legitimately did not want him. Like, go look back at why Minnesota traded up from the 11 spot. They wanted Darius Garland. And then the Cavs went in and sniped him and created a backcourt duo of Colin Sexton and Darius Garland at the time. Jarrett Culver 100% made the right decision. You think he's going to get a better pick after being the Big 12 Player of the Year, going to the Final Four national championship game and going 6th overall? Like, I'm not that guy, but like, I'm not trying to like belittle anyone or anything like that, or like try to limit them. Jarrett Culver was not going to go higher than 6th the next year. He just wasn't. So he made the right decision, went to a shitty situation. It didn't work out for him. He still got paid like $15 million. And I get it's not all about the money or anything like that, but that's a nice little caveat, I guess, to going to a shitty situation. Let's see here. This from Wake. How many minutes does Big Maple play tonight? Yeah, I think he probably plays same range, 27 to 32. He played 29 down in Austin. Wholeheartedly expect him to do that. I think he's going to be big tonight for Texas Tech. The thing I'm looking forward to most offensively, again, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but the screen aspect of it, he's a really good screener. I want to see Pop with him in the screen and roll and have Devion off ball a little bit more. I think Texas Tech could really capitalize off that offensively. I really, truly do. All right, before I answer the next question and talk about anything else, be sure to like the video if you haven't already, and then be sure to hit that subscribe button and shit. If you want to share the stream on social media, be sure to do so as well. Really appreciate each and every one of y'all in here. We got the old Texan, we got Alex, Judah, Wayne, Alex, Ryan, we got Derwake as well. Appreciate everybody in here chatting it up with me. Just kind of giving y'all the look around the Big 12 right now. Kansas State 38, Kansas 30 with through 350 left in the first half. So that should be a good one. Another top 12 matchup in the Big 12 takes place in Ames tonight. Number 7 Texas against Iowa State. And obviously we know about the matchup in Lubbock, where Texas Tech is actually favored. I'll be honest with you guys. I mentioned it earlier in the live. I don't know the last time that I've seen a team that is winless in conference, the favorites over a ranked team. I don't know the last time that's happened, but that is Texas Tech tonight. They are 2-point favorites out in the 806, and it is a whiteout for the Red Raiders in that one. Again, ask me questions and everything in the chat. Truly appreciate y'all being here. I'll be out here for another about 15 minutes or so, maybe 20, depending how good the chat gets and how many more people join in. Let me get this from old Texas Tech man. I think these freshmen are having a hard time learning Adams' way. Yeah, I think probably defensive-wise, yes, I would agree with that. But listen, man, I've been to multiple of those practices. Those things are no joke. The terminology is no joke. Um, it's something to see it on the floor and execute it to perfection like last year and years past. But when you compromise almost what that defense was built on to go out and get more shooters and more guard play, it really hampers what that defense was built upon, which is switching everything and basically never having a mismatch, right? So Texas Tech obviously doesn't have that luxury this year because they do have guards. They do have when I say guards, I mean true guards, right? Not like the Adonis Arms of the world that are combo guards. Um, like Pop is a true guard, Devion is a true guard, and they have true guard size, right? So that's something there too. So I think really when you look at it, I think that that's something that they have struggled with, and rightfully so to some degree, man. I mean, again, I've been to some of those things. Um, shit, like that those practices are no joke, man. No joke. I'm on the sideline drinking water and watching them practice sometimes, and I get tired just watching them. I can't even imagine what it's like actually practicing. Like legitimately, it's wild. It's legitimately wild. It's crazy how almost damn near effortless they make it look at times on the floor. Um, Again, here we go from Wake. Wow, we're favorites. Yeah, no, yep, 2-point favorites. It got up to 2.5 at one point, but settled at 2. So, well, it's got about 15 more minutes before the line probably officially settles. But yeah, 2-point favorites. Kind of shocking, again, considering Texas Tech is winless in conference and then Baylor's a ranked team. I have never truly seen that before. Truly had never seen it. This from Ryan. Do you think Texas Tech is done recruiting 2023s and looking into the portal? Yeah, I think on their 2023 aspect of things, remember they've already landed one in the portal with the transfer from Georgia. And if you need to know more about him, we got a video on the channel, so be sure to go check that out. Obviously, you've got Jackson and Steffe. I'm really excited about that combo. I don't know how long it'll take to kind of integrate them in, but I think they have legit star potential in the Big 12. I haven't been excited about a guy. Like Jason Jackson in a long time. He truly reminds me of Malik Monk. Go watch Malik Monk at in his high school tape and everything, and it damn near looks like Jason Jackson. Also, I think Drew Steffe is one of the more underrated all-around players in this recruiting class. I don't think he's, a top 50 player or anything, but I think he has the potential after a year or two at Texas Tech to make that leap his third year to be an all-conference type player. And shit, it may happen before that. But when it comes to the portal, Texas Tech's going to be active again. They always are. And the thing is this, like, do we know who's going to enter the portal for Texas Tech right now? No, but let's be real about it. People are going to enter the portal. Like, it's just how it goes. It's college basketball. Like, I think at this point, you'd almost be crazy to think everybody does return. And that it is what it is. That's just kind of what the game is now. But I do think Texas Tech will add a couple more guys. I think, again, I think that they're going to go back to kind of what they did last year, though, and kind of go try and find a guy that is kind of Adonis Arms like. You're not going to find a guy that is just like Adonis Arms. But I think you're going to go out there and try and find guys like that have switchability, that also present a ton of athleticism and also can make a shot from the outside at a solid clip. Nothing crazy, though. This is from old Texas Tech man. Crazy question. Do you think Bacho is jealous of Fardaws? No. No, not in the slightest. RC, start, bench, cut, Odiase, Fardaws, Bacho. Oh, shit. I think you ordered them. Yeah, I think you ordered them right there. First and foremost, I got to put Odiase 1 because he's going to go down as one of the most underappreciated guys in Texas Tech history, in my opinion. Like, his development and his growth as a Red Raider, not only on the floor, but as a person and as a man, like, dude is unmatched. Super great guy. And then Fardaws, I think I'd probably bench him just because he allows for a little bit more versatility. But I'm not going to lie, I feel absolutely disgusting cutting Bacho. That makes me feel disgusting. And Wayne, I hate you a little bit for asking the question. Just a little bit. Not much, just a little though. Because, rocking a hard place. You put me there. It's your fault. Nobody else's. Alex, this is far-fetched, but I think this team can make March Madness, but actually go pretty far because if you think about it, this can be a very scary team once they start getting better. Yeah, I mean, again, this comes back to it. I don't think there's any denying that this team is talented, right? Like, I think if you hear somebody say that this team isn't talented, they're lying to you or just trying to get a rise out of you, because it's simply not true. This team is talented. Do they execute properly most of the time? Honestly, no. But the talent's there, right? And maybe that execution had to deal with because you had a guy that, again, I had a staffer, one of the assistant coaches tell me they were trying to build the offense through Fardaws. So if you have a guy that is out for most of the year and You're trying to run offense, but that guy that you're trying to run the offense through, or at least that was the plan, is out. What are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? So, listen, in order for Texas Tech to make the tournament, they're going to have to win virtually every home game from here on out. They got 7 left. I think you got to go 6-1 at minimum. And then you're going to have to steal a road game or two. I think it really comes down to that for me. It truly does. It's from William. No way Dawes returns. Yeah, I think that's going to be the interesting one, to be honest with you. And the reason being is this. I think, obviously, we all know the rumors. Last time, I went live on this channel was because Dawes and those mitigated those rumors and everything, even though there was some truth to it. But I think really what it comes down to is this, and I'm kind of almost at the mindset now where, and again, a lot of people might not like this, but it's just my mindset is I I'm kind of just like, hey, I don't know if anybody's going to come back. And if they do, awesome. If they don't, hey, that's just the name of the game, right? Like, it's almost like that. And it's no disrespect to anybody else, like in terms of their decision making. Go do what you think is best for you. I don't hate on anybody for that, right? Now, the grass may not be greener on the other side. But if you think that's what's best for you, go do it. I'm not going to knock you for it. But yeah, man, I mean, who knows who comes back next year? Who truly knows? I'll tell you this, though, the most important player that Texas Tech needs to get back and solidify is Pop. Again, Pop is just he's a star, man. He's a freaking star. If you haven't already, again, be sure to like the video. I appreciate everybody watching. I need to go see if anybody subscribed during this, or if all of y'all are subscribed. Let me know in the comments section if y'all are subscribed. Just type S for me. That's it. Just let me know if you're subscribed. That's all I want. Just the letter S. You ain't got to do nothing else. And then I'll give y'all a shout out too if y'all do that for me. Let's see here. What is the ceiling for our team if everyone was playing their best and meshing? We're talking Big 12 champs. Nah, I don't think so. If everybody was meshing, that's a good question. I think this team's ceiling is probably like 4th in the Big 12. I think you got to really respect Kansas. I think Kansas is the best team in the country. And Texas Tech took them to the wire, obviously, at home. So they can play with the big boys. There's no doubt about it. It almost goes back to my original comment of Texas Tech kind of plays up or down to their competition. I think probably 4th. I think you got to put Kansas up there. I think you got to put Texas up there. No, that doesn't sound great to everybody, but I think that Texas is a legitimate team. Rodney Terry and the adversity that program has had to go through with the Beard situation it's a hell of a job by him. And then, you can kind of convince me with Iowa State or TCU right there at that 3 spot. I'd probably go Iowa State. I think TJ Oltenberger is like a top 15, 20 coach in America. Dude is a stud. Unbelievable. I don't know his contract situation with Iowa State, but they need to double it. I mean, the dude is unreal. What he's done in Ames the past couple seasons. He is absolutely the real fucking deal, in my opinion. But no, I don't think they'd be Big 12 champs. But if we're talking tournament wise, like everything hits. I'm talking every bounce goes your way. And by the way, this won't happen. But if every bounce goes your way during the regular season, then every bounce goes your way in the postseason, right? Like, I think you're probably Sweet 16 at best. Man, round of 32 right now. They just got to prove me something, man. We're talking about best case scenario, and this team just needs to win a game in the Big 12 if we're being honest about it. But it is what it is. I think they do get their first Big 12 win of the night against Baylor. I truly do. I think this team is going to respond with their back against the wall, and we're going to see a team that's scrappy, resilient, a team that isn't afraid to go and get dirty, dive for loose balls. I expect a couple of jump ball situations, some feistiness in tonight's game. I think this is going to be the game where Texas Tech fans look back at it and they're like, that's the team we expected. That's the kind of tenacity we expected. That's the kind of effort we expected. And by no means am I saying they haven't shown effort this year, but effort and not getting results is just effort. You got to have effort and results in this league. And I think everybody knows that. But yeah, this from Jordan. Thoughts on Mac McClung being invited to the NBA dunk contest? I saw that. That's pretty cool, man. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that's just super cool, man. I it was one of those deals where I was kind of surprised. I didn't know you could do that. Um, in terms of what's it called, like the G League and everything. But I like it, man. I think people are gonna get to kind of see his highlight ability. Obviously, he's famous for that high school mixtape that he had. Obviously, was a good solid college player as well at Georgetown and obviously Texas Tech. But yeah, man, I'm pretty excited to see that. I typically don't tune into All Star Saturday night except for the 3-point competition because I think the dunk contest is actually relatively boring. But I'll be tuning in to watch Mac. I think it'll be a lot of fun to see him. Um, this from the old Texas Tech man. Latest news on Allen. Yeah, still working with that lower leg injury. The last I heard is he's starting to do a little bit of activity, nothing too crazy, stuff like that. I I don't know the actual timeline for him. I've heard 2 to 3 weeks. I've heard, hey, we're just taking it day by day. The last I talked to a staffer about it was 2 to 3 weeks. Now, to be fair, that was a week ago. So I guess 1 to 2 weeks if you go by that timeline. Um, but yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see how the rotation works when KJ comes back because I think KJ is one of those guys that's super important to this team in terms of just a guy that is a big without being a big. So yeah, man, I'm interested to see when he comes back. But the nice part is you don't have to rush him back anymore because you got Fardaz back. Bacho's still working his way back from that illness that I mentioned. Um, but yeah, man, I think that Allen will be fine. They're going to ease him back. Obviously, they wanted to ease Fardaz a little bit back more in that game, but I mean, you had to play him 29 minutes, which was shocking. I was told he was going to play 10 to 12. So they just had to use him out of necessity. It was kind of wild to see him out there that much after all that he's been through with the foot. From Wake, subscribed. Appreciate you, my guy. Jordan Mackey, appreciate you. Reckon. Wayne put me between a rock and a hard place there earlier, Wayne. He's subscribed, though. So is the old Texas Tech man. So is Wesley Hall. So, yeah. Any final questions about tonight? Be happy to answer. Texas Tech questions in general, I'll be happy to answer as well. One more time, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. It really does help us out. And by the way, I know some of y'all are subscribed, at least 6 of y'all. I'm just saying, if you put an S down there, it lets me know in my mind that you're subscribed. And when we do this drawing for this signed football that we've got going on, because we got to 1,500, Lyle actually got the football today, went in, and he got a couple signatures on it. We'll save it for the podcast in terms of what signatures he got on it. There's a couple of Texas Tech coaches on there that you may know and may want to add to your collection, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's what we're going to be giving away is a Texas Tech signed football by some of the coaches. So if you're subscribed, your name is in the drawing. I appreciate you guys right there. Alex, there we go. Wayne, what's your beverage of choice for the game? You going brew or not? Yeah, probably. I'm going to cook dinner here in a couple minutes. I think I'm going to go with a quesadilla. Get a good quesadilla going. Chicken quesadilla. It probably pisses y'all off the way I say quesadilla. I know it does my fiance, so I just do it to mess with her. But yeah, probably going to go brew tonight. I don't know exactly what we have in the refrigerator. Probably Dos Equis. I always keep Dos Equis on strap. Keep it locked and loaded with the Dos Equis. Always got to have the lime, too. I think it's a cardinal sin when it comes to drinking a Dos Equis if you don't have a lime with you. So anytime I buy a Dos Equis at the store, always got to get 2 limes, cut them up, put them in some kind of container in the refrigerator, and then, always use one because I think it's a sin if you don't have a lime with your Dos Equis. I feel like it's almost like you don't deserve the Dos Equis. Maybe that's an exaggeration because you probably spent your money on it, but it's how I feel personally, and I do judge you just slightly, a little bit, but not much. Almost like I judged Wayne for asking that question earlier. Like just a little bit, not much, but just a little bit. You know what I mean? Let's see here. From William, is Kerwin a big disappointment? I mean, he definitely hasn't lived up to expectations, right? But mostly the reason he isn't playing is because he can't play a lick of defense. Like, that's not to be rude or anything like that, but he's just been bad defensively. right? Like the reason Demarion is playing over him is because Demarion is actually playing a little bit defense, right? Like he's not great at it, but he's at least trying. And that's not to say KyeRon isn't trying, but KyeRon's just long, rangy, and just not playing good defense, right? So I think that's the biggest reason why KyeRon isn't playing. The shots there, the offensive capabilities are there. We've seen it in terms of him getting better with his shooting percentage. But if you can't play defense, you're not going to play for Mark Adams. Like it's that simple. I think everybody in here knows that. So yeah, that's kind of the opinion on that. See you later, old Texas Tech man. And then Wayne said, "Yum, yeah." I might go get one right now, Wayne. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, talk myself into one. I was getting choked up about it. Those Secchi's right there. My God, what kind of man am I? Anyway, around the Big 12, one more time before I wrap it up. Kansas State leading number 2 Kansas right now, 44-39 at halftime. You got number 7 Texas at number 12 Iowa State tonight. Another top, 13 matchup in the Big 12. That's pretty big. Then obviously the big one for the Red Raiders is tonight. This is a must-win ball game for Texas Tech, and I fully expect Kevin Obanor to have a dominant night tonight. I think this is going to be the Kevin Obanor game where things click for him. I expect him to get north of 15 points tonight, say 6 rebounds, make a couple threes, make a couple of plays that remind everybody in Red Raider Nation, but more importantly, Kevin Obanor. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm Kevin Obanor. I can come out here and do this at a high level. So I'm really excited to see that. But overall, hey, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter. It's at RCMB323. I'll actually just leave it right here for you guys in the chat so y'all can follow me. I'll be doing a post-game Twitter Spaces talking about Texas Tech men's basketball and hopefully talking about a Texas Tech men's basketball win. It would be their first in Big 12 play. And then, hey, we'll be having a video tomorrow talking about it. Is Texas Tech back on track, or is it really time to panic if they lose tonight? And I think I've laid out my sentiments in terms of if it's time to panic or not. But I guess you'll have to see tomorrow if Texas Tech does end up losing. Appreciate all of y'all. It's really fun. I think we capped out around 57 people in here at one time. Truly awesome to do that. I'll be doing more lives here on the channel, so be sure to subscribe for the latest news and rumors when it comes to Texas Tech athletics. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Stay in the know right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.